Hello and welcome. This is Wendy with loveandstampin.com. I am so excited that you're here with me today. We have a beautiful card that we're going to make together, and we're going to spend some time just chit-chatting and catching up because we haven't got to do that in quite a while. This is technically a color splash video. I'm using limited colors in order to inspire you to try to use a few color combinations that you might not normally think to use. Now, before we get into this video, I want to warn you. There is graphic content. It may not be suitable for all viewers. So please bear that in mind as we proceed, because there is a death of a card make happening. Is that a thing? A card make? A card? It's not going to be good, people. It's like a train wreck. You're going to want to look away, but you're going to want to watch. So with that warning in mind, let's stamp. Here we go. Okay, we are going to use the Delicate Dahlias stamp set, and there is a host code right now on the screen. It is also listed below this video. If you place a $50 order or more, you're going to get these free samplers from me. They're a little 6x6 pack of samplers of beautiful paper that is in the Celebration catalog. So if you were to place a $100 order, you could choose this Delicate Dahlia set for free, and then you could also get those samplers from me for free. So you're kind of like tripling your rewards. You get 2 sheets of the Bedazzling specialty paper, and you get a 6x6 sampler pack of the Peaceful Prints designer series paper. Okay, I've started by stamping the dahlia on a piece of masking paper, and then I'm going to stamp it here on my card base. This piece is cut at 4 1/4 by 5, or excuse me, 4 by 5 1/4. So I'm doing all my stamping, and I cut out the mask for the dahlia in order to do our ink blending masking trick. So it's really a fun trick to kind of create like a focal point with masking, and I thought I would show how to do that today. So the first step is you have to use masking paper of some kind. You could use a Post-it note if you don't have any masking paper. This masking paper, I believe I got this. I've got a couple different kinds. There's some I've gotten from Simon Says Stamp, and then there's some that I've gotten on Amazon. So I'll link to some of it below the video from Amazon. This is not something that Stampin' Up sells. So if you need masking paper, you can, again, use a Post-it note, or you can purchase masking paper on Amazon. If you use the link that I've provided below the video, I am an affiliate of Amazon, so I do get like a little kickback when you use my links, but it doesn't come at any extra cost to you, just so you know. But anytime you shop on Amazon and you use any of my links, that's how most people who have YouTube videos and stuff, that's just a common thing to use affiliate links. But I always want to let you know what you're using so there's no confusion. Anyways, here I'm cutting away 2 areas of this mask that I feel like I'm going to need to cut away, because I only need a strip of ink blended color, and so I didn't feel like I needed to cut the entire flower out, fussy cut the entire flower out of the masking paper. Hindsight, I wish I just would have cut it all out, and you're gonna see later in this video where we have a disaster and I end up having to redo all of this anyway. So hang tight for that. So anyway, I'm going through and hand cutting this out of the masking paper, and then I will be able to peel away the masking paper, put it over the top of my dahlia, and then I can stamp my leaves. So whenever you're doing masking for like a 1-layer scene card, whatever you want to appear to be in the front or the foreground, those are the things that you want to stamp first. So in this case, I want my flower to look like it is in the front, and then I want my leaves to look like they're behind the flower. So in order to do that, I had to stamp the flower first, put the mask on, and now I'm stamping the leaves. even though I end up having to completely redo this when you see the little card emergency, um, all of these steps are exactly the same. So I chose to leave this part of the video alone and just let you watch it because it literally would be exactly the same. I do make a couple of major mistakes here that I want to point out to you. One is, I don't know if you just noticed, but I just stamped an inked image onto that black mat. Do not do that. In my head, I was like, oh, this will just clean the stamp off really quick. The problem is then the ink remains on that black mat, and so then it gets on your hands, and then it gets on your project. So this card took a whole lot of turns. There were multiple times where I stuck my hand in ink and got it on the paper, and it was bad. But I went ahead with the video and I went ahead with the card because it turned out beautiful in the end. And you seeing my mistakes along the way helps you prevent those exact same mistakes when you're making cards. So here on the paper, I already have a little mark, and I keep looking at my hands because I can't figure out where I got it from, the ink from on my hands, and I'm transferring it to the paper. And then I realize it's because I had put that stamp on that black mat and then the ink just sat there. It didn't absorb into the black mat. It's sitting on top. So every time I touched it, it's just picking right back up on my hand. If you do use certain mediums for your masking, you do have to be really careful because there are papers out there that are like a masking paper. The stickiness would work for masking paper, but when you stamp on it, it allows the ink to stay wet and it smears. That is bad because then it picks up on your hands and your fingers, and again, you end up with the same problem. Now, this masking paper that I have here is specifically formulated not to do that, so you don't have that problem. But if you use things like Post-it note tape is really bad for that. So just be aware. If it's all you have around, that's okay. But just be aware that that is an issue, and then be careful when you're handling stuff. So here you see I end up having to cut away a bunch more of the masking paper. It would have been smarter of me to just cut this entire mask the very first time and not try to, save time, basically, is what I was trying to do. In the end, it took me the same amount of time. So you may as well just cut the whole dang thing out to begin with. All right, so then I'm going to put the mask over this, and then we're going to start ink blending. And here is where things start to go bad. First of all, I keep putting my hand, you can't really see it on the paper, but I keep putting my hand in ink, and the ink is getting on different areas, like on the card base, then it gets on the mask, it's on my fingers, and it's not where you can see it on my fingers, it's actually underneath. And I keep trying to figure that out, and it's driving me crazy while I'm trying to make the card. So I grab painter's tape, okay? Here we go. This is where it's going to get graphic. Turn your head. Just turn your head if you can't handle it. But I decide I'm going to use painter's tape to do my masking. Now, let me preface this with saying I have used painter's tape a million times for doing this. What I have never used it for is I realized I used this on regular cardstock. And in the past, when I've used painter's tape, it's been on watercolor cardstock. Watercolor cardstock has what they call a tooth, which is basically texture. And so it doesn't stick the same way. And you can see here, I even put it on my arm to add some oil to the tape. And that is to make the tape less sticky. So I feel like I've done all the right things. Like I've tried to make the tape less sticky. I'm using painter's tape, which I've used in the past, so I really don't see the issue. Okay, so here's the issues. Issue number 1, I didn't put paper down underneath. So as I begin to ink blend here, what happens is the ink is moving on top of that, the self-healing mat that I'm using to stamp where my stuff is sitting. The ink is moving off that and back onto the image. It's moving off the painter's tape and back onto the image. So it's like my ink is just sitting on the surface of everything around where I want to ink blend, and then it's just moving in. Now, because I'm just using 2 blues, this doesn't end up being a huge problem. But if you were using different colors and trying to like make an ombre or a different type of blend, this would be a major issue. So again, if you're doing ink blending, I would recommend putting a scrap piece of paper down on the surface first, like the one I'm using here on to the left, and then start your ink blending. Okay? All right. So this video is basically a compilation of things not to do that Wendy has done. And I'm going to attribute this to, it has been a very long time since I have sat down and done cards this style. What does that mean? My style, my aesthetic is clean and simple with lots of white space. And I've kind of gotten away from that. I've been using tons of designer series papers, trying to make lots and lots of simple cards. And as you progress through the month of September with me, you're going to learn more and more about what I'm talking about right now. But there's some big changes coming for Wendy. And one of the first changes I'm making is I'm getting back to Wendy style cards. Things that make me happy, that are calling on my heart to make. Like, I looked at this stamp set, and I knew that I wanted to make this card. And I had the idea in my mind, and I just wanted to make it so bad. And to be true to myself, I have decided that I'm going to start doing that more often. In fact, pretty much all the time. And I'm going to stop worrying about what sells product. That's just the truth. Obviously, I depend on Stampin' Up! As my livelihood, and I do definitely need people to place orders with me. But I have heard so many people say you have to do XYZ in order to sell product. You have to do XYZ in order for people to buy product. And at the end of the day, I have felt like at times I have strayed from my true creative person in order to accommodate or meet the needs of maybe crafters that, here we go, people. Here we go. It's happening. Are you ready? Somebody call the wambulance. Look, I pause because I know what's happening. It is ripping my cardstock off. So I've done this beautiful ink blending. I've done all this masking, and it just rips my cardstock off. Yep. So I had to start all over. So here you're seeing a brand new start to this card. This one, I had to restamp everything, re-ink blend it. You can see it turned out beautiful. And this is where now I'm just going to color. So I'm taking Mango Melody Dark, and I'm going in at the very base of every leaf and putting my dark color down first where I want it to be the darkest. And then I'm going to move out with Daffodil Delight Dark, and then So Saffron and Daffodil Delight Light, using Stampin' Blends. If you don't have Stampin' Blend markers and you want to try alcohol markers, these are a great jumping off place. Copic markers are a wonderful alcohol-based marker, but they're really expensive and they take a lot to learn how to use. These kind of take the guesswork out of what to do, and you just color. So anyway, I'm going through and doing all this, obviously sped up really fast because this video was like 45 minutes long originally. So now I'm going to use Granny Apple Green and kind of just do the same thing with the light and the dark. And then we're going to stamp the sentiment, and this card will be finished. There are links for all the products that I used today in the description below the video. So if you want to get any of those items, you can. And again, this Delicate Dahlias stamp set is free with a $100 order. So back to what I was saying earlier, basically at the end of the day, I have made the decision to kind of transform how I'm doing business and do some things that make me a little bit happier and stay a little bit more true to my creative person. And there could be fallout from this. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm scared because I'm basically going to be changing up how I do some things. I'm going to be offering some different types of classes that you haven't seen me do before, and we'll see how it goes. All of this will really launch in October. That's why I'm kind of vague about it at the moment, because I don't actually have all the items worked out just yet. And until I do, I don't want to make some big announcement as to how this is going to happen. But I'm not going anywhere. Of course, I'm still your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. I'm still here for any questions or help you have. And I'm just going to be taking a little bit of a different direction. And I hope and pray you're going to come on this journey with me and you're going to love it. I honestly think that this is what I've been waiting for, and I've been just too scared to pull the trigger. So I'm doing it. I'm pulling the trigger, and I think it's going to be epic. So stay tuned for more about what's going to be happening and the types of classes I'm going to be offering and all of that. And I also have some really fun bonus material and different things up my sleeve for those of you who are my customers. So for the month of September, I'm offering those free sampler packs, and I'm excited about that. And I have another little thing up my sleeve that I'm hoping to announce next week that is for September. I'd really like to do something for the evacuees of the Caldor fire here in Northern California. And I have a really great idea as to what I want to do. So hopefully I'll be able to put all that together and get it out to you next week, because I thought it would be fun for you to participate with me in helping the evacuees from the Caldor fire. So stay tuned for all of the new comings ups, things goings ons. All right, so I layered this piece of 4x5 1/4 finished project onto a piece of basic black cardstock that was cut at 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and then I'm layering that onto a card base that's cut at 4 1/4 by 11 inches to make a top folding card. I really went back and forth on if I should add sequins or some sort of an embellishment to the front of this, and ultimately I decided that I just really loved the clean and simple look of it, and I didn't want to add anything to it and make it more muddy. I just wanted to keep it very clean and simple. I love that aesthetic. I love the feel of bright colors with crisp, clean backgrounds. And so I just kept true to what I really love. And then the other thing is I had to add Wink of Stella, because Wink of Stella is just that little kiss on top of it, right? It's like the perfect little send off. And unfortunately with video, you really can't see the Wink of Stella that great. The shimmer and shine doesn't really come through on video, but in real life and in person, you can definitely see the shimmer and shine. The only thing I would say with the Wink of Stella is you do have to be careful not to get it into your water-based ink, like where I've ink blended, because it will pick that color up and kind of move it into your project, and you don't want that to happen. So just be careful when you're using that, because it is wet, so it will move around water-based ink. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. I hope you had fun. I know I had fun hanging out with you. There is color inspiration stuff over on my blog if you want to go there and pin it to your Pinterest page for color inspiration. Shop with me at shoploveandstampin.com, and I can't wait to see you on the next video. Talk to you soon.